This is directly from Wikipedia. The International Space Station is a space station or a habitable artificial satellite in low Earth orbit. Its first component was launched into orbit in 1998. The ISS is the ninth space station to be inhabited by crews following the Soviet and later Russian Salyut, Almaz, and Mir stations, as well as Skylab from the U.S. The station has been continuously occupied for 16 years and 85 days since the arrival of Expedition 1 on November 2, 2000. This is the longest continuous human presence in low Earth orbit, having suppressed the previous record of 9 years and 357 days held by the Mir. The station is serviced by a variety of visiting spacecraft, the Russian Soyuz and Progress, the American Dragon and Cygnus, the Japanese H-2 transfer vehicle, and formerly the Space Shuttle and the European Automated Transfer Vehicle. It has been visited by astronauts, cosmonauts, and space tourists from 17 different nations. I'm going to repeat that whole paragraph because for some people it just goes in one ear and out the other. Proof there's no International Space Station is all in that one paragraph. That one paragraph proves without a shadow of a doubt, it's 100% proof that the International Space Station does not exist. All right? I'll read it again. The ISS is the ninth space station to be inhabited by crews following the Soviet and later Russian Salyut, Almaz, and Mir station, as well as Skylab from the U.S. The station has been continuously occupied for 16 years, 85 days since the arrival of Expedition 1 on November 2nd, 2000. This is the longest continuous human presence in low Earth orbit, and having surpassed the previous record of 9 years, 357 days held by Mir. The station is serviced by a variety of visiting spacecraft. The Russian Soyuz and Progress, the American Dragon and Cygnus, the Japanese H-2 transfer vehicle, and formerly the Space Shuttle and the European Automated Transfer Vehicle. It has been visited by astronauts, cosmonauts, and space tourists from 17 different nations. Do you understand what that paragraph just said? This means the International Space Station does not exist. This thing was built in 1998, and they're having people from 17 different nations and tourists visiting the ISS. They have the Japanese, the Russians, you name it. This is since 1998. The problem with the people who are too deaf, dumb, and blind to understand what this whole paragraph means is, since 1998, there hasn't been one person in space to hold their cell phone, camera, or any recording device in the window, any spacecraft on the way to the ISS. Not the Japanese, who are fucking camera hungry and camera happy, not the Russians, and not tourists from 17 different nations. This is since 1998, which I might add was built in 1998 without any documentation, without any video recording, without any pictures of it being built by astronauts. It was built in 1998 when we had the capability of recording with a helmet cam. Now, they had helmet cams in 1950, but they became very popular in the 1990s. If you were going skydiving, you'd have a helmet cam. If you're going swimming or snorkeling, you'd have a helmet cam. If you go bungee jumping, you'd have a helmet cam. If you're taking a shit in the crapper, they would wear a helmet cam. This phase was astronomical. In 1998, however, when they built the fucking goddamned ISS, there is no documentation of any kind. No helmet cam, no video recorders, no handheld cameras, nothing that can record man doing a goddamn thing has ever been recorded in space, building anything. Not the Russians, not the Japanese. The Japanese never used a camera to build anything in space. The Russians have never used a camera to document filming anything in space. The International Space Station was not documented. This was a monumental achievement of mankind, yet there was not one helmet cam or any astronaut to document building this motherfucking ISS, International Space Station, in space. There hasn't been one astronaut ever in the history of mankind to hold a recording device in the window and say, look, I am traveling to the Mir, I'm traveling to the Soyuz, I'm traveling to the US, the ISS, I'm Japanese, I'm traveling to my Japanese fucking spacecraft in space. The Japanese, for fuck's sakes, have never recorded anything in space. Do you understand what this means? This means that the ISS is a fraud, it's a phony, it's fake. It doesn't inhabit space. Nothing inhabits space. Okay? This is now a 1%, 5%, 10%, 50%, 80% proof of anything. This is 100% proof the ISS does not exist along with any other satellites on the face of this Earth in orbit. It does not exist. Now, for the brain-dead truthers out there, pretty much every truther I've ever talked to on Skype or on my channel or ever talked to, showing the ISS in space saying, oh, we're here in space, and then look, Matt, it's got to be real. How the fuck did those astronauts get to the ISS? Where's the journey to the ISS? Show me how they built the ISS. If you search for the ISS being built, they'll give you animation. If you search for the ISS being built, they'll show you the intricate fucking pieces that had to be put together by hand by astronauts. That's never been documented. That's never been filmed. Ever. And in the future, and in the past, in the present, there will never, ever, ever be any documentation recorded by a handheld camera of any kind in space. Space travel is fucking impossible. Do you understand me? Now, when they're in the ISS, what do? They brush their teeth. They exercise. These are the ridiculous, stupid things that they do in the ISS. They're always looking down at the Earth, never out. The windows of the world, out. I want to see space. I want to see the moon. I want to see the stars and the sun. They always look down. To top it off, although they always face the camera in one direction down, the obvious thing that are missing from the view of the ISS that they can't fake is the thousands and thousands of satellites that pass the ISS. Not one has ever been videotaped, ever. Do you understand that? And another thing, you got the moon. And people say, well, Max, the Earth can't be flat. Look at the moon. It's a sphere. How is the moon a sphere? You see one side. A sphere would have to have another side. Well, it's the dark side of the moon. You can't see on the dark side of the moon. Oh, okay, let's go. That's somebody who don't have a brain in their head. You see, in the early 1800s or early 1900s, they came out with this thing called illumination. We called artificial light. Now, in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, when we were traveling in space, we have the technology to light up the dark side of the moon. Now in the year 2000 and above, we definitely have the technology to illuminate the dark side of the moon brighter than the lighted side of the moon. The problem is, the moon is not something you can actually land on. Otherwise, they would have really landed on it. Now, we've all caught video footage of the moon and the stars peeking through the dark side of the moon and the lit side of the moon, which tells you that's not something you can actually land on, and it's just a light. There is no dark side of the moon. The moon is not a sphere. All right? If the moon was a sphere, they would have landed on the dark side of the moon. You can't fake landing on the dark side of the moon. It was easier to fake landing on the lit side of the moon. Do you get it? Now, they want to prove to me that's a sphere. Land on the dark side of the moon. No, we can't do it. We can't land on the dark side of the moon. Listen, you light it up. You land on it. You film it. And you go home. That's it. There's no reason why we can't land on the dark side of the moon if, in fact, it existed. If, in fact, the moon is something you can actually land on. Since we can't get into space, it doesn't matter. Since there are no satellites in space, it doesn't matter. We cannot go to the moon. We cannot go to Mars. Mars is not a sphere. There are are 0 planets in space. They are not spheres. They are just like the sun. It's a half a fucking lit up light, just like the moon. You understand that? There are absolutely 0 spheres in the universe. Actually, there is no fucking universe. You dum-dums have been fucking lied to. You get it now. You have 0 evidence of the frickin' moon being a sphere. Go try to land on it. You can't. You can't even get into space. We have been fooled 100%. The lack of video photography from the Japanese, the Russians, the United States, the 17 different nations and space tourists from around the world, astronauts and cosmonauts, from the space shuttle, the automated transfer vehicles, from the Soyuz, the Cygnus, the Dragon, the Salute, the Almaz, the Mir, the Skylab, the Expedition, the low Earth orbit of these horseshit places are non-existent. They do not exist. Space travel is an impossibility. This is all to fool you that everything they've been telling you is supposed to add up with their mathematics of a frickin' spinning ball through space. And another thing, your Earth, by their own maps, show everything on one side. On the globe, you have one side of water and one side of the is continents and countries. Just like the moon, there's a dark side and a lit side. Just like the sun, it's what you see is on only one side. It seems to me there's hardly anything that's a sphere and has another side. It's convenient, isn't it? How can you have a spinning ball with water on one side and land on the other side? Do you understand that? Everything is on one side. The countries, the continents is all on one side. You've been fucking lied to. Everything I've just said tonight, you can't say, you're wrong, because I haven't, if you go over what I said, I use Wikipedia, all right? And I use fact, not fiction. No astronaut, no cosmonaut, no anybody from 17 different nations as space tourists visiting the Russian Salute Almaz, the Mir, the Skylab in the United States, the ISS, the Soyuz, the Progress, the Dragon, the Cygnus, the Japanese H-2 transfer vehicle. The Japanese, for fuck's sakes, has never recorded any space travel to any of these things in space, whether it be in Russian or Japanese or the United States. There has not been any astronaut to record any movement in space through the window, through a handheld camera of any kind. Do you get it now? That's an impossibility. How did they build the ISS? How dumb are truthers to watch the people in the ISS flick a switch? We're here in the ISS. Well, how the fuck did you get there? Did you record that trip? I'd really love to see it. You're never going to see that, right? That's an impossibility. That's something you will never, ever, ever, ever witness. In closing, the video I did the other day about Google and all the brainwashed idiots saying, Google wouldn't know that. Yes, they would. They would know the curvature of the Earth. That's why they give you formulas, because the formulas don't work. They can physically measure a curvature from state to state, country to country. It's never been done. No Japanese has done it, no Russian has done it. When you build a 106-mile bridge in Japan, those people never asked what the curvature was before they built it, because the curvature does not exist. If, in fact, the curvature existed, the people who built that 106-mile bridge in Japan would have first gotten the curvature of the Earth from one end to the other so they can design it. There hasn't been an engineer till this date to record the curvature, to look for the curvature, or document the curvature for any project on this Earth, no matter how big, no matter how small, whether it be a railroad or a 106-mile bridge in Japan. These things are not natural. You cannot build things without knowing the lay of the land first. It's an impossibility. They ignore the curvature no matter what they build, and the ninnies say, well, they never have to use the curvature.
That's their excuse. Out of the 100 years of recording and engineers with the numbers building, whatever they're building, there's some kind of numbers always go into the database, and Google as a search engine would pick it up. If there's any mention of curvature, whether it be a formula or not, it would be entered in a database, and any search engine would have that information within a tenth of a second, and it does not. It is an impossibility. For the past 100 years, no information on curvature has ever entered on a piece of paper and entered in a database for a search engine to pick up. That is an impossibility. There is no curvature. There is no space station. There is no space travel. There is nothing of any kind that exists. You live on a flat plane, 100%. And everything I just mentioned, you can't deny. Fact. All facts. No one's ever, no engineer, no project of any mankind, man-made, built, no matter what the size, has ever been documented with curvature. Never been entered in any database or written down for any search engine to pick up. It does not exist. That is an impossibility. All right, and the Earth is not 25,000 miles in circumference because simply there is no circumference. There is no ball. The numbers are a flat-out lie that match up with their horseshit, so dumb, brain-dead ninnies can regurgitate it and keep the rest of the fucking dead sheep dead. That's it. It's a big fucking lie. And on that note, we are done and done.
I almost forgot. To those people who say they see the ISS with the naked eye, yes, Wikipedia mentions it also. That is not the ISS. There is, however, something in the sky that people are witnessing, but it's not the ISS. For a perfect example, it's moving too slow. For a perfect example, it's too close. You would not be able to see it. Let's just figure this out for a minute. The average speeding bullet, all right, can travel 1,700 miles per hour. That's pretty fast, right? Guess how fast the ISS is moving? The ISS is moving at a speed of 17,500 miles an hour. All right? Whatever's floating in the sky, that is not the ISS. They are fooling you. You are being fooled. I also must mention, if you're looking down from the ISS, you can't see any airplanes pass. You can't see any satellites pass. No. Whatever that structure is in the sky, it could be a balloon, it could be something, it could be a mirage, it could be a mirage, it could be anything but the ISS. There is no way the naked eye can see the ISS at a speed of 17,500 miles per hour when a speeding bullet is at 1,700 miles per hour. Do you understand me? The speed alone, there's just no way. Just imagine looking down from that ISS that you can see with the naked eye, all right, to a structure down on Earth at similar size. Can you see the Empire State Building from the ISS? No, you cannot. Can you see the World Trade Center from the ISS? No, you cannot. Can you see the Statue of Liberty? No, you cannot. You can't even see satellites that are supposed to be right up orbiting around you. It is an impossibility for that object, whatever it is, floating in the sky at an extremely slow speed and extremely close. There's an impossibility for that to be the ISS.